The Crazies was released back in 2010 and was a remake of George Romero's 1973 film of the same name. Brett Eisner directed this version where he chose to mainly focus on the townspeople of a small farm town in Iowa called Ogden Marsh, whereas in the original film it switched back and forth from the government trying to contain this viral outbreak and the townfolk trying to survive from not only just the virus, but the soldiers who have begun to shoot these civilians on sight. I like both versions of this story, and this remake is one of my favorites. It came out around the later half of the remake craze during the 2000s, which was kicked off by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Romero already had a couple remakes of his films, with The Night of the Living Dead back in 1990, and then there was Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead in 2004. There was also a remake of Day of the Dead starring Nick Cannon of all people in 2008. And I don't think anyone would argue that that is easily the worst remake of Romero's work. Well, so far at least. The Crazies came out when I was really getting into horror, and I was on board for the thrill ride that horror movies can give you. I can't remember if I saw this in theaters or not. I think I did, but I think all the weed I've smoked has wiped away some of my memories. I do know that I was immediately taken by the movie, and ever since it's been a movie I watch every October when I marathon 31 horror movies for Halloween. I love the story and the concept of an unfortunate Midwestern farm town that gets quarantined off by the government because of a crashed military plane carrying a biological weapon that's infected the water supply, turning people, well, crazy. It doesn't necessarily affect everyone in the same way. Some, or, well, actually most of them do turn horrifically violent, but there's also some that just go fucking loony.
Did Peter call?
This movie doesn't take its time getting to the mayhem either. The movie's cold open shows the town on fire, and then it just cuts to 2 days earlier. Timothy Olyphant is the main lead, and he's one of my favorite actors. He's believable in the role as David Dutton, the town sheriff, and he's just put through the ringer in this movie, because he's not only fighting to save himself, but the townspeople and his pregnant wife. In his first scene, he confronts a townsperson named Rory, who's the first to show signs of the infection, by interrupting a high school baseball game by walking onto the field holding a shotgun. He tries to deflate the situation until Rory points the shotgun at him, leading to David shooting him dead and immediately showing remorse, but little does he know there was no way of him talking Rory out of it. We're then introduced to Rhoda Mitchell playing Judy Dutton, David's pregnant wife and the town's doctor. She encounters the next person to go crazy during a routine checkup, where he eerily says the same thing twice, and I remember that being in most of the marketing for the movie.
She worries too much. I'm fine. Just a little tired.
That same person would then go on to burn down his house with his wife and son still inside. This scene was in the original movie, and the David character in that version is a firefighter and not the sheriff. The other two main characters in this movie is the Deputy Russell, played by Joe Anderson. He's a pretty underrated actor, and he has the arc of going from being a normal dude to slowly seeing the signs that he is crazy. It's a pretty similar arc to the Clank character in the original, who we also see slowly go mad. The other main character in this remake is the Becca character, played by Danielle Panabaker, who in the year prior to this was in the Friday the 13th remake. She works with Judy at her doctor's office, and like her role in the Friday the 13th remake, she's sweet and innocent, but still has a tragic ending. The setting for this movie is perfect because of the wide open farmlands. It makes it so much easier for the government to find and spot people as opposed to an urban city. Also, with it being a small Midwestern town, it gives the movie a certain sense of a tight-knit community where everyone knows each other, and it adds to the terror of someone you know has become a depraved lunatic. So when David shoots Rory at the baseball game, it's presumed Rory was drinking because he was known as the town drunk. The movie does a good job at setting up a few people in this town before seeing them go full crazy, like the high school principal who says after the shooting at the baseball game that the kids will be okay and that they're resilient, then cut to him carrying a pitchfork and stabbing people, and some of them are probably his students. There's also the hunters who David tells them to pack up their guns because hunting season is over. We then see them later on shooting people in the town's main street, and then they pop back up at the gas station for their final confrontation with David and Judy. The townspeople aren't the only threat, as the government was quick to quarantine the town of Ogden Marsh. They had this looming threat during the beginning with their satellite imagery and taking photos from their unmarked SUVs. In the scene where they take photos of David, the woman riding on the bike singing is actually Lynn Lowry, who was in the original Crazies. In the original draft of this film, the perspectives did shift back and forth from the townspeople and the military, but the director Brett Eisner chose to focus more on the townspeople and wanted the military to be more nameless and faceless threats. I think he was right to make that choice because I am more invested in this version of David and Judy, while in the original I actually think the strongest parts are of the interactions between the military and the government officials. There's still 2 great scenes in this movie where David gets to confront someone from either the military or the government, with the first being David getting the drop on a soldier who pleads with them for his life and that he's only just following orders despite being told to shoot civilians. It shows how the military dehumanizes its soldiers. The other scene involves David, Judy, and Russell pinning down some government official who reveals what the plane was carrying and is completely apathetic about the whole situation.
Look, fella, we lost a plane. What do you want me to say?
We then see shortly after that when David and Judy make it to the gas station, they discover all the burned bodies of the rest of the people who were tested and didn't show signs of the infection that were being evacuated from the area by the government, leaving David and Judy the last remaining people of the town of Ogden Marsh, now that everyone they know has been exterminated. I do like the ambiguous ending with them making it to Cedar Rapids, but only to have the camera pull out into the satellite view with the text "Initiate Containment Protocol" popping up on the screen. The movie was moderately successful at the box office, bringing in $54 million on top of its $20 million production budget. The critics seem to like the movie as well, and I think the movie has gone on to have a little bit of a cult following. Just recently, Lionsgate put it out on 4K in this cool looking steelbook, and as of right now, it's only available on their website. I hope they release a standard version of the movie, that way you don't have to pay the high price plus the $8 shipping, and making it widely available at other retailers. They got a new interview with Breck Eisner, who was heavily involved in this 4K remaster. He talks about how this was the last movie he shot on film before digital took over, and that they shot the movie in 235 anamorphic to really show the wide open landscapes of Iowa. He also talks about how they got the CDC involved to help them properly create a quarantine zone, and just how trippy it was to see how the movie was not far off from what we would come to see during COVID. They also included the alternate ending that Breck wanted to use, but ultimately settled on something a little more ambiguous. In this version of the ending, David and Judy make it to a diner in Cedar Rapids, where it's revealed that David is infected. Breck brings up the moment where David was infected, in the scene where David and Judy are attacked by the wife and son of Rory, the man David shot and killed in the beginning. David is stabbed in the hand, and with the knife lodged in his hand, he stabs the wife with the knife. So I've always thought, well, her blood has now gone into the open wound in his hand, so wouldn't that just lead to him getting infected? So this ending does solve that plot hole for me, but I still prefer the original ending that we got. Prior to that 4K, the movie was released on Blu-ray, and there was a single release, but I bought this 2-pack because I do also like Let Me In, which is also a remake, but of a Swedish film called Let the Right One In, and it's an adaptation of a Swedish novel. There's also a 4-pack that includes both of these movies, along with Apollo 18 and Pandorum, a movie I covered a few weeks back on the channel. The Blu-ray is no longer in print since it was put out by Anchor Bay, but it's still very accessible, and I'm willing to bet Lionsgate will put out their own standard Blu-ray someday, and maybe they'll include the new bonus features that were done for the 4K. Lionsgate Limited just launched, so I don't really know what their deal is. Like, are these editions truly limited, and once they're gone, they're gone? And what about a standard release after the limited editions have sold out? So I guess we'll have to wait and find out. I still have my DVD that I bought on day one. Walmart back in the day would discount the newly released movies on the Tuesday that they dropped, but only for that one day. So I would always hit up Walmart on Tuesdays. This came out the same day as Hot Tub Time Machine, and I remember picking both of those up. Sadly, I lost my DVD of Hot Tub Time Machine when I moved, but I still have this. All of the bonus features on this are on both the 4K and the Blu-ray. There's a few featurettes on the making of the film, one chronicling the production of the film, and the other being about the look and the design that went into creating the Crazies. There's also a cool feature all about George Romero's work, and one of the interviewees is Don Coscarelli, the director of the Phantasm movies, and one of my favorites, Bubba Hotep. Another one is Ryan Turek, who now works over at Blumhouse. A few of the cast and crew were also interviewed, and they praised Romero's work. Also included are some motion comics. There was a 4-issue comic book series to coincide with the release of the movie. I think I might pick them up someday, and maybe I'll do a YouTube short on those comics and tell you about what they add to this story. Thanks for watching this video on one of my personal favorite remakes, and well, just one of my favorite horror movies as well. Let me know what you think about the Crazies in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a movie time.
Russell! I saw movement! Everything is fucking moving!